Have with us our resource person for today, Mr. Avinash Gupta. Mr. Gupta is a chartered accountant by profession. Currently, sir is having his own practice and is a partner in a CA firm. He's also the president of the SRCC Alumni Association. He has passed out from SRCC. If I'm correct, in the year 2009, sir?
No, 2006.
Six. I stand corrected. He's also the chairman of the Northern India Regional Council of the CA Institute. He has graciously agreed to be with us in this seminar, the topic of which is financial and tax literacy. As you are all aware, the last date of the ITR filing is coming up, and sir is extremely busy in that. Despite his busy schedule, he has agreed to be with us. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टैक्स प्लानिंग करना चाहते हैं या टैक्स सेव करना चाहते हैं तो बिना किसी सीए की मदद से आजकल कई बार टैक्स प्लानिंग उतनी एफिशिएंट या इफेक्टिव नहीं हो पाती है जितनी होनी चाहिए और मोर सो विद लॉयर्स जो हमारे एलएसीज ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं तो आप सब अपने रिटर्न्स भी फाइल करते हैं या नहीं करते हैं तो जैसे हमारा डीएलएस से भी आप लोगों का टैक्स काटता है तो किस तरीके से हम अपनी टैक्स प्लानिंग करें या क्या फाइनेंशियल इनपुट्स हो सकते हैं टू हेल्प अस अंडरस्टैंड दिस स्लाइटली कॉम्प्लेक्स टॉपिक फॉर दैट पर्पस हमने मिस्टर अविनाश को बुलाया हुआ है so sir we have so many questions with you we will ask them at the end of the lecture but over to you for the opening remarks and the keynote address that you have to make.
Thank
And before I hand over, we also have Dr. Tina Garg with us, who is the principal of the Royal Law College. Good morning, ma'am. I think we have lost our audio. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ashish sir. First of all, I want to thank DLSA Shadra district and Ashish Gupta ji in person that who have provided this opportunity to me and my institute to come and discuss few things about you. Just to give you a brief about the institute and what we are going to do in next 40-45 minutes. We are from Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. It is set up under an act of the parliament in 1949. And it is not a private organization. It is an autonomous body under a direct administrative control of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India. We are the only body. So like you have Bar Council of India. So we have a regulator for chartered accountancy, which is Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. This institute we have divided into 5 sub regions: north, east, west, south, and central. So I'm heading the northern region. On this 1st July, which is the date of passing of our Chartered Accountancy Act, we call it as a CA Day. This is also a Doctor's Day as well. So on this CA Day of 2021, our institute have started a new initiative. And in this new initiative, the institute said that let us also spread some kind of a knowledge among the non-chartered accountants, among the other professionals like doctors, advocates, cost accountants, architects, etc., and among the schools and colleges. And that awareness is on finance and tax literacy. We all know that today I'm here with all advocates and you are all legal experts representing various matters in the court relating to IPC and all. This is your on your tips. But from a individual standpoint, there is a need to understand more about how can you plan your finances in a best way and how can you plan your taxes in a best way and what are the bare minimum compliance of taxes that as an advocate you have to do. So I am here to discuss these things with you. If you have any query, you may raise hand and ask me in between, or we will take the query at the end as well. So we can open the floor at the end for a Q&A session. Now let me come to first the bare minimum compliances. What you have to do. Can you give me 1 minute? Just 1 minute. EPC से. So what is the bare minimum compliances that one has to do is you all are practicing advocates. So either you are practicing as an individual or you may be practicing as a partner of the firm. So there are two legal entities from a tax standpoint. One is proprietorship or an individual practitioners, and another is that two or more advocates join hands, and after joining hands, they join hands and they open up a partnership firm, which is typically a law firm, and then you practice in the name of the law firm. Now, what are the compliances one has to do in these two cases? Let me take you first the individual, which is your proprietorship concern. As an individual, I am practicing. As an individual, there is a scheme of the government under the Income Tax Act, which says that if your gross receipt during the year starting from 1st April till 31st March do not exceed 50 lakhs. So it is either 50 lakhs or less. Then in those cases, you can opt for a presumptive scheme. What is this presumptive scheme? That whatever is your earning, you just offer your 50% as income, as 50% of the receipt as income, and you pay tax accordingly. So for example, Mr. A is having 32 lakhs of the total receipt during the year. He may offer 50% of 32 lakhs, which is 16 lakh, and on the 16 lakh he can pay taxes and relax. There is no need to maintain any books of account. There is no need to prepare anything. So it is a simple 50% presumptive rate that you can do, but it is applicable only in case the total receipt from profession, from the advocacy profession, from the legal profession do not exceed 50 lakh. If it exceed above 50 lakh, then in those cases you are required to maintain proper books of accounts. You are also required to get them audited by a chartered accountant. So अगर आपकी रिसिट 50 लाख से ज्यादा हो जाती है तो आपको जो है एक सीए फॉर्म से एक चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट से ऑडिट कराना मैंडेटरी है. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट हमारे यहाँ एक प्रोविजन होती है टीडीएस, टैक्स डिडक्शन एट सोर्स. वैसे तो आपको जो है ईयर एंड के बाद भरनी होती है. जैसे अभी हम पिछले साल की रिटर्न फाइनेंशियल ईयर 20-21 की बात करें तो 1 अप्रैल 2020 से लेकर 31 मार्च 2021 तक द ड्यू डेट ऑफ फाइलिंग ऑफ रिटर्न फॉर इंडिविजुअल्स इज 31st December. So अभी 2 दिन बाद तक आप भर सकते हैं अपनी रिटर्न. एंड इन केस यू आर लायबल टू ऑडिट मींस टैक्स ऑडिट, देन योर ड्यू डेट इज 15th of February 2022. तो ये हमारे यहाँ वैसे ड्यू डेट हमारी 31st जुलाई और 30th अक्टूबर होती है, बट कोविड के कारण इस साल एक्सटेंड हो गई है. बट अगर आपका टैक्स ऑडिट होता है तो आपको एक टीडीएस की एडिशनल प्रोविजन आप पे लग जाती है कि आप अगर 50 लाख से ज्यादा अगर आपकी रिसीट्स हैं तो आपको टीडीएस नंबर लेना पड़ेगा और जिसको भी आप पेमेंट कर रहे हैं उसका टीडीएस काटना पड़ेगा. जैसे आप डीएलएसए से जब आप पेमेंट लेते हैं या आप किसी भी कॉर्पोरेट से पेमेंट लेते हैं या आप किसी भी कंपनी से पेमेंट लेते हैं, किसी भी अदर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से पेमेंट लेते हैं, एंड इफ द पेमेंट ड्यूरिंग द एंटायर ईयर एक्सीड 30,000 रुपीज, तो वो आपका 10% का टीडीएस काटते हैं अंडर सेक्शन 194J. सो ये जो टीडीएस होता है इट इज मेयरली अ एडवांस टैक्स दैट यू डिपॉजिट विद द गवर्नमेंट. और जब आप अपनी रिटर्न भरते हैं, आपकी इनकम कम है, आपका टैक्स लायबिलिटी कम है, टीडीएस ज्यादा है, तो यू क्लेम इट एज अ रिफंड. और टीडीएस कम है तो यू हैव टू पे द बैलेंस अमाउंट एज सेल्फ असेसमेंट टैक्स टू द गवर्नमेंट. सो दिस इज व्हाट यू कैन डू. तो पहली जो इंपॉर्टेंट स्कीम विच इज एप्लीकेबल फॉर एन एडवोकेट और अ लीगल प्रैक्टिशनर इज 50% प्रिजम्पटिव रेट अंडर सेक्शन 44ADA. तो ये इंडिविजुअल का मैंने आपको बता दिया. अब इसके अलावा आपको और क्या बेनिफिट मिल सकते हैं? Then there is a next benefit which is allowed to you is आप ATC का बेनिफिट ले सकते हैं. You invest up to rupees 1.5 lakh in any scheme like PPF, like equity oriented mutual fund. 5 साल की आप FD करा लीजिए, या अगर आपने कोई हाउसिंग लोन लिया हुआ है तो उसका आप रीपेमेंट कर रहे हैं प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट का, या आप जो है अपने बच्चों की ट्यूशन फीस दे रहे हैं, इन सब इंस्ट्रूमेंट में अगर आप किसी भी तरह की कोई पेमेंट कर रहे हैं, whatever is the actual amount paid subject to maximum of 1.5 lakhs, you are allowed as ATC. इसके अलावा आपको एक 50,000 रुपए की हम आपको एडिशनल डिडक्शन दे रहे हैं इनकम टैक्स एक्ट के हिसाब से, which says कि अगर आपने कोई tier 2 NPS लिया हुआ है, नेशनल पेंशन स्कीम में आपने इन्वेस्ट किया up to 50,000 rupees तक, तो हम over and above ATC you will be allowed a 50,000 additional deduction also under the NPS scheme. So this is another benefit. Then there is one more benefit about your medical insurance. So if anybody have taken a medical insurance from any medical insurance company, then whatever is the medical insurance paid for yourself, your immediate family means you, your spouse and your children, or your parents, dependent parents, whether dependent or not. And if you are making a payment, then you are allowed a deduction of 25,000 for yourself and 25,000 additionally for your parents if they are senior citizen. So ये हम आपको दूसरा एक आपको बेनिफिट, आपको ये चीजें हम और 80B के तहत ये देते हैं. If you have any saving bank interest, so up to 10,000 rupees, there is an additional deduction which is given to you on account of saving. और अगर आप senior citizen हैं, if any of you or any of your family member is a senior citizen exceeding the age of 60, then this 80 TTA deduction will increase to 50,000 in section 80 TTB. So 80 TTA नहीं देते हैं हम उसे, फिर हम उसे TTB देते हैं, which is 50,000. So that is an additional deduction which are there. तो अगर हम इस सब चीजों को इकट्ठा करके चलें, तो आप ये देखेंगे कि अगर आपकी इनकम मान लीजिए 20 लाख रुपए आपकी है, मतलब 40 लाख की रिसीट है, आप 20 लाख रुपए ऑफर करें अपने 50% पे, उसके बाद आप 1.5 लाख की एटीसी ले, 50,000 रुपए की आप 80 टीटीए ले, 50,000 रुपए का 80 CCD2 ले, एंड इसके बाद हम मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस ले सकते हैं. एक हमारे यहाँ एक और बेनिफिट अवेलेबल है विच इज प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप. सो अगर आप किसी भी कंपनी से, किसी भी लाल पैथ या किसी भी हॉस्पिटल से कोई प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप कराते हैं, कोई भी हेल्थ चेकअप जैसे एनुअल हेल्थ चेकअप, बॉडी चेकअप कराते हैं, तो दैट 5,000 रुपीज इज ऑल्सो अलाउड एज डिडक्शन. तो दैट इज ऑल्सो देयर. इसके बाद अगर डोनेशन करना चाहते हैं, आप पीएम रिलीफ फंड में दे सकते हैं, किसी भी चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट को दे सकते हैं. सो 80G के अंदर आपको वो डोनेशन भी मिलेगी, कुछ केसेस में 100% और कुछ केसेस में 50%. सो दैट डिडक्शंस आर ऑल्सो अवेलेबल. So this is how you can plan your individual taxes. अब इसके अलावा सर कुछ चीजें और हैं जो जनरली people are not aware about. First, house properties. तो अगर आपने कोई घर खरीदा है, if you have taken any house for self-occupied house you have taken for residing, and you have taken a loan from a bank. So in that case, if you have taken a loan from the bank, then interest is allowed as deduction. Whatever interest you have paid to the bank or the financial institution or any other person, that interest is also allowed as deduction, subject to maximum of 2 lakh rupees. That also you can avail the benefit. Manish ji have asked a query. That my query is it necessary to open a current account in bank by advocate to deposit his fee receipt, or saving bank account will also serve the same purpose? Very, very important question, Manish. And I think many professionals like doctors and advocates have the similar question, whether we should open. As far as law is concerned, there is no bar or there is no preference that an advocate or a doctor or any other professional has to open a current account for doing or depositing the receipt. तो कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं है. आप अपना पैसा जो आपको मिला, यू कैन डिपॉजिट इट इन द सेविंग बैंक ऑल्सो, यू मे ओपन अ करंट अकाउंट ऑल्सो. लेकिन अब आपका नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन होना चाहिए, अगर दोनों अलाउड है तो हमें क्या करना चाहिए? सर इसके लिए आपको मैं एक चीज ये समझाना चाहूंगा कि करंट अकाउंट और सेविंग अकाउंट की रिपोर्टिंग होती है. कौन रिपोर्ट करता है? बैंक रिपोर्ट करता है टू द इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट. नाउ व्हाट आर द लिमिट्स? सर अगर आपने अपने सेविंग बैंक अकाउंट में 10 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा डिपॉजिट किया है ड्यूरिंग एनी फाइनेंशियल ईयर, सो मैंने अपने सेविंग बैंक में 11 लाख रुपए डिपॉजिट किए, then this will be automatically reported to income tax department by saying that this particular account, the total cash deposit during the year is 11 lakhs. If it is 9 lakhs, nothing is to be reported. But if it is more than 10 lakhs, then this account gets reported to income tax department. So they said that this particular Falana saving bank account there is a cash deposit of this much amount which is exceeding 10 lakh rupees. Now this red flag is automatically comes into the risk parameter of income tax department, and chances of scrutinizing the case is more in this case. However, if you open a current account, then the limit of 10 lakh increases to 50 lakh. So our current account is being reported to the income tax authority if the total deposit in the current account exceeds 50 lakh rupees. So आप जो है उसमें 50 लाख से ज्यादा का कैश डिपॉजिट करोगे तो ही आपको वो रिपोर्ट होगा. To my understanding, most of your receipts of the advocates are in cash only. So mostly they receive cash from the client and then they represent him before the court. कुछ कॉर्पोरेट से या कुछ एम्पेनल जगह से जैसे डीएलएस से हो गई यहाँ से चेक से आती है. Otherwise, in most of the cases, you receive your fee in cash only. So my personal suggestion is that one should open a current account, get everything deposited in a current account, and then whatever is your 50%, you transfer the same in your saving bank account by way of a check only. Then your chances of reporting of the case to the income tax department is very less. And then at the end of the day, you will also say to the any income tax authority or any income tax officer that I am doing a legal profession and this whatever amount deposited in that current account is my fee, which is duly reported under my ITR. So I hope Manishji, I have answered your query, or if you have any follow-up query, you please unmute yourself or you type in the chat.
Thank you for the reply. Thank you for the replies.
So can I move further? Ashishji, do you have any query at this stage, or should I move further?
I have one query. Under section 80D, you mentioned about the medical insurance, and you said that about the insurance, like I'll take having a medical insurance, and there are certainly because all the insurance do not cover the medical expenditure. Now I understand that under 80D, एक 80D B है, A, B, C 4 क्लॉजेस हैं 80D सब क्लॉज 1 में, ठीक है. अब उसमें 80D 1 है 2 है. तो A है वो तो आपकी इंश्योरेंस की बात करता है जो एसएससी है या उसकी फैमिली मेंबर्स की, ठीक है. देन B जो है वो पेरेंट्स की बात करता है इंश्योरेंस की ही. C और D एक्सपेंडिचर की बात करते हैं.
Yes.
अब इसका एक प्रोवाइजो है जो ये कहता है कि जिसका इंटरप्रिटेशन इनकम टैक्स की वेबसाइट ऐसे कर रही है कि अगर मेडिकल एक्सपेंडिचर होगा और वो एसएससी सीनियर सिटीजन हो तभी वो एक्सपेंडिचर अलाउ करता है, अदरवाइज नहीं करता है.
Yes.
मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग ये है सर कि वो सीनियर सिटीजन हो या ना हो, वो एक्सपेंडिचर तब भी एडमिसिबल है सब्जेक्ट टू द लिमिट ऑफ 50,000.
नहीं सर, ऐसा नहीं है. Sir, what happened? इसका लिए ना you have to go to the background of the case. Sir, 10 years back, for claiming a deduction under 80D, the money or the premium has to be paid by an account pay check only. Even online payments are not allowed. Then they have made an amendment to the law, and amended law says that you can make the payment by an account pay check or by any other digital means, whether ATM or NEFT, RTGS, etc. Then there is a similar provision for super senior citizens in the law, which says what happened to the medical insurance company. So if you are getting a medical insurance done at the age of 30, 40, 50, up to 55, there is no problem. The medical insurance company will go on and insure you. But if somebody wants to take an insurance at the age of 62 or at the age of 75, no medical company, no insurance company gives you an insurance. So the government have amended the law. I think this was an amendment in 2015 or 16, whereby they say that if the parents are senior citizens and not covered by insurance, then in those cases, whatever is the actual expenditure made by the SSC towards their medical expenditure is allowed. Till 2018, this is allowed only for a super senior citizen, which is 80 plus. But in 2018, I believe, or 2017, they have amended the law and super word have been deleted and it said senior citizen. So parents has to be senior citizen. if the parent is
नहीं वो
not
तो
the
ठीक
senior
है सर, सीनियर सिटीजन के केस में कोई सी देखें तो वो असेसी और उसकी फैमिली के मेडिकल एक्सपेंडिचर को भी अलाउ करता है।
बिल्कुल ठीक है सर।
ठीक है सर। अब उसका प्रोवाइजो देखो तो वो थोड़ा कंफ्यूज कर देता है चीजों को। मेरी इंटरप्रिटेशन ये है कि क्लॉज वो ये कहता है कि अगर वो सीनियर सिटीजन है एसएससी और इनकम टैक्स पॉलिसी नहीं ले रहे हैं तो उसको इनकम टैक्स की वेबसाइट ऐसे रीड कर रही है कि केवल हम एसएससी के एक्सपेंडिचर उस केस में अलाउ करेंगे जहां पे वो सीनियर सिटीजन हो, वरना नहीं करेंगे।
बिकॉज सर
जबकि ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए। हाँ, अदरवाइज ये प्रोवाइजो की जरूरत ही नहीं थी। क्लॉज सी के अंदर ही वो लिख देते एसएससी वेयर द एसएससी और हिज फैमिली मेंबर आइदर ऑफ हिज फैमिली मेंबर्स इज अ सीनियर सिटीजन। मतलब प्रोवाइजो वो उन्होंने अमेंडमेंट कई बार करने के चक्कर में ये बात वो ओवरलुक हो गई है कि क्लॉज सी रिडंडेंट कर दिया उन्होंने।
अच्छा, प्रोवाइजो के
हाँ
उसके
हाँ, आप अगर वेबसाइट पे जाओगे और अपनी रिटर्न भरने की कोशिश करोगे, जैसे ही आप ये कहते हो कि हमारा फैमिली मेंबर में कोई सीनियर सिटीजन नहीं है, तो वो केवल 2 हेड्स अलाउ करता है। एक तो इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम, दूसरा प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप। एक्सपेंडिचर को खा जाता है वो, जबकि क्लॉज सी में उसे एक्सपेंडिचर भी अलाउ करना चाहिए, जो वो पेरेंट्स के केस में अलाउ कर रहा है। आई होप आई एम क्लियर सर।
हाँ सर, ये थोड़ा सा आई थिंक ड्राफ्टिंग एरर है। सी में उनको सीनियर सिटीजन लिखना चाहिए।
या तो सीनियर सिटीजन लिखें या फिर वो एक्सपेंडिचर भी अलाउ करें।
नहीं ठीक है सर, मैं आई एग्री अबाउट योर इंटरप्रिटेशन, सो विल गेट
तो
इट करेक्टेड।
अब आप ये बताओ कि कौन सा वाला क्लेम कर सकते हैं, एक्सपेंडिचर क्लेम करें या ना करें?
सर अगर आपके पेरेंट्स सीनियर सिटीजन है तो यू कैन क्लेम द एक्सपेंडिचर, देयर इज
नहीं
नो
नहीं, एसएससी कि मैं अपने ऊपर इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी के अलावा कुछ
नहीं मिलेगा, नहीं मिलेगा सर। नो,
सेक्शन
डोंट क्लेम एनी एक्सपेंडिचर ऑन योरसेल्फ being an SSC, not allowed. Only medical insurance, only preventive health checkup, and expenditure of the parents who are senior citizens.
सेक्शन सी की फिर क्या रहा? सेक्शन सी भी तो है
सर वो ड्राफ्टिंग एरर है, वो अभी आपने जो बोली है मैं कुछ दोबारा इंटरप्रेट करूंगा, लेकिन वो नहीं मिलेगा आपको। और जो हमारे मेमोरेंडम एक्सप्लेनिंग द बिल है उसमें भी इस तरह की कोई बात नहीं कही गई है जैसा आप कह रहे हैं।
अच्छा चलिए ठीक है
ठीक है
सर।
सर, वो नहीं मिलेगा। एक्सपेंडिचर मिल जाएगा पेरेंट्स का अगर वो सीनियर सिटीजन है, अपने ऊपर सेल्फ एक्सपेंडिचर नहीं मिलेगा।
ओके ओके
Any other questions? Anyone, if anyone have any other question?
One question, sir.
या प्लीज गो अहेड।
Usually, sir, what happens if 2-3 advocates in association work together, and when the fees comes, it comes in the account of one advocate. So, what will be his receipt? The entire fees is the receipt of the one advocate, or is a share of the fees is the receipt of that advocate? Suppose 50,000 has come in the account, and he had distributed that amount in other advocates and other expenses. So, what would be the actual fees? Actual fee receipt.
Sir, actual fees, any advocate. So, for example, there is a 4 advocate A, B, C, D, and A receive the fees and give the share of B, C, and D. So, there are 2 ways to handle this thing. One and the simplest way is that let A take entire 1 lakh as his receipt, and whatever payment made to B, C, and D, that will be an expenditure. So, that is one simplest way. But if you say that it is an AOP, it is an association of 4 people, then you have to obtain a PAN number of AOP and get this fee credited to this AOP, and you say A is the lead partner, and then you can distribute among B, C, D. In that case, only the share of fee received by them is the receipt. But it is a very long process simply for 1 or 2 assignments, this arrangement can't work. So better would be let A take it as an entire receipt and then make a payment to B, C, and D.
सर उस केस में वो एक्सपेंडिचर क्लेम कर सकता है ऐसे, या सैलरी दिखा सकता है ऐसे?
और मिलेगी ना सर, A ने काम लिया और B, C और D को एक्सपेंडिचर है उसका जो भी उसने दिया।
लेकिन वो तो फिर 50% की बार पे आ जाएगा ना
सर। अगर आप if you do not want to show 50% as your receipt as your income, then there is an option that you will prepare the books of accounts and get them audited.
Okay.
तो वो वाला ऑप्शन तो हमेशा अवेलेबल है.
Okay.
आप अपना जो है लेस देन 50% पे दिखा सकते हैं, आपको बस बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स बनाने हैं. सर कुछ केसेस में सर एक्चुअली 50% एक ओवरऑल है, कुछ केसेस में हो सकता है इनका शेयर 25% रह जाए, कुछ केसेस में 75-80% भी हो सकता है, 90% भी हो सकता है. तो ओवरऑल एवरेज करेंगे तो 50% ही आएगा.
Yeah, please, Mr. Vivek Sharma, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir. I'm Vivek Sharma. Sir, if an employee also received income from profession in the same financial year, then how will the income be calculated? Should he go with the simple arithmetic that the earnings from source 1, which is employment, is X, earnings from source 2, which is profession, is Y, and then he should do X plus Y, and then on the entire X plus Y, he should calculate the taxes?
Very good. Sir, for that you have to understand what is our system of taxation. Sir, under income tax, we have prescribed 5 heads. That any person can earn the income under the 5 heads of income. What are the 5 heads? The first head is the salary. So whenever there is an employer-employee relationship, so for example, Ashish ji is here and his employer is, let's say, DLSA or the High Court. So he is having an employer-employee relationship. Whatever he is getting as a remuneration or compensation, that is called as salary. So first head of income is salary. Second head of income, what we call is a house property income. Income from house property. So if any person have any kind of a property, which is either a shop or a residential house property or a commercial house property, if he is getting a rent out of it, then it is taxable under the head income from house property. The third head what we have is income from business and profession. So if any person is doing any kind of a business or profession, then it is covered under the third part. Fourth part is income from capital gains. So if you have sold any land, sold jewelry, sold any art, sculpture, etc., sold any other capital asset, shares, mutual funds, etc., then whatever is the gain, whether it is long term or short term, that is taxable under the head income from capital gain. If you have any other income like interest income, dividend income, or any other non-routine income, that is taxable under the head income from other sources. So Vivek ji, in your case, you are already getting a salary income, which is taxable under part 1. Then you have a business and profession income also, which is taxable under the PGBP. Our gross total income is aggregate of all 5 incomes. So in your case, you have income from 2 heads. You may also have an interest income, which is income from other sources. Aggregate all of them, then it is called as GTI, gross total income. Out of GTI, you will be allowed deduction under 80C, 80T, 80TTA, TTB, etc. Then it comes to be total income, which we also say total taxable income. On this total taxable income, we compute tax. What is the rate of tax? Up to 2.5 lakhs, 0 tax. 2.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs, 5% tax. 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, 20% tax. And above 10 lakhs, is the rate of tax is 30%. Or you may opt for a new scheme also. Out of this new scheme, first 2.50, then 2.55%, then 2.5 10%, then next 2.5 is 15%, 20%, 25%, and above 15 lakhs it is 30%. But if you go for new tax scheme, new regime, then all deductions under chapter 6, 80C, 80T, etc., they will not be allowed. So depends on the case to case basis. You may either opt for a new scheme or you may opt for an existing scheme. According to me, existing scheme is better as of now. So everybody is going for an existing scheme only, whereby you can calculate tax. I hope Vivek ji, I have answered your query.
Thank you, sir. One more small question without taking much time.
Yes.
If a person, Indian citizen, receives income from outside country for any professional services delivered outside India, will that income be liable for taxes as well?
Yes, very good question again. So for that, you need to understand what is the system of tax we have. In India, there are 3 types of system, what we call it. One is called as territorial system of tax. That whatever income earned within the territory is taxable. Any income earned outside the territory is not taxable. So country like Singapore, country like France, they adopt this territorial system. So if you earn income in Singapore, it is taxable in Singapore, otherwise it is not taxable. Then there is a second type of system of taxation, which we called as a residential based system or global tax system. What is this residential based system is? India is adopting this residential based system, and 90% or 95% of the countries in the world are in this category only. They say that my resident, any person who is a resident of my country, I will tax on their global income. So whatever is the global income. So you being a resident in India, if you are earning income within India or outside India, any part of the world, the entire income is taxable in India. So because India is into that global tax system, so if you earn any income outside India, then that income is also liable to be taxed in India. The third system is called as a citizenship based system. In this citizenship based system, the government says that whoever is my citizen holding my passport will be liable to pay tax in my country, whether he is staying in India in that country or not. India has just started citizenship based system to some extent, whereby they say that all those who are holding Indian passports and they are having income more than 15 lakhs from India, and their income is not liable to be taxed abroad, then they are liable to pay tax in India. So for example, any person goes to Dubai, stays in Dubai for 365 days. Dubai, there is no income tax, there is no personal tax. So in that case, the person in Dubai is liable to pay tax not only on Indian income, but also from his Dubai income, but also from the other incomes that they have from abroad in India. So these are the three systems. India is following global tax system, residence-based system, and to some extent citizenship-based system. So in your case also, if you are earning any income from outside India, either online or whatever way, then this is liable to be taxed in India. I hope I have cleared your query, Vivekji.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good morning. I have two questions. One is regarding 44 ADA. As explained by you that up to 50 lakh there is a limit of 50, we can reduce it by 50%, and then whatever is the balance that will be taxable. Now my question is that will I get the tax slab benefit on this if my total
yes, you will get. Yes, you will get.
Because what I read is that it says that it is 30% flat. It is treated as a business income.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Thank you.
If you are an individual, and what we are saying is we will be presuming your income. So if your receipts is, let's say, 20 lakhs, then 10 lakhs is your deemed income.
That's
so assuming you have no other income, your GTI is 10 lakh. 20 lakh is receipt, the income will become 10 lakh. You will allow to take ATC, let's say 1.5 lakhs. Remaining 8.5 lakhs will be taxable in your hands as a slab base only. So first 2,50,000 no tax, then next 2.5 lakhs 5% tax, then 20% tax. So that slab benefit will always be allowed to you. However, let me put a rider. If you are running a law firm is a partnership firm among two or more advocates. Law firm is also allowed to opt for 44 ADA benefit. So any firm who is doing the profession of legal, they can also opt for the 44 ADA benefit. Meaning thereby a law firm receiving income or receipt, 50% can be offered to tax under the presumptive scheme. But in case of a partnership firm, the rate of tax is flat 30%. So if a law firm, let's say, earns a receipt of 9 lakh rupees, 4.5 lakhs is deemed to be the income of that law firm. 80C is not allowed to a law firm, 80D is not allowed to a law firm, so 80TTA is not allowed to a firm. So no deductions will be allowed to this firm. Then on this 4.5 lakh rupees, they are liable to pay flat 30% tax rate in case of a partnership firm, which is a law firm. But in case of individual, the slab benefits and deduction, everything will be fully allowed to you.
Okay, thank you. My second question is that I have an HUF also, and there are two co-partners in this HUF thing, and there are two members also, means total 4 in the members. let's say if somebody wants to transfer this money to HUF, how the taxation will work and how much money can be transferred to the HUF account?
So there are two things again in transferring the money. In the hands of HUF, any gift taken from the member or co-partner is tax-free. So
irrespective of the amount?
Irrespective of the amount.
Okay.
So you can transfer any money, but the person has to be the member of HUF. So for example, it is an HUF which is Avinash Gupta HUF. So in which I am the member, my wife is a member, and my, let's say, 2 children are also the member. If my wife or my children transfers money in HUF, it is tax-free in the hands of HUF. But if my mother, my father, my brother and sister, if they transfer money to the HUF, it is fully taxable in the hands of HUF.
Okay.
So only the members can transfer the money to HUF. Similarly, HUF can also transfer money back to the members to the extent of their current year income. So if HUF have total income during the year is 9 lakh, and they can transfer it back to their members in any proportion up to 9 lakhs. If they transfer 15 lakhs to somebody, then remaining 6 lakh become taxable in their hands. So this is one. Now there is one more provision. Ashish ji must have read this provision, and he have put before me also, that if you transfer the money to the HUF, which is a revocable transfer, then whatever income the HUF will earn, that may be clubbed in the hands of the transferee, means you in your hand. So you can take care of this clubbing provision to some extent. But other than that, if you make a proper gift to HUF and it is from within the members of the HUF or Karta or co-partner, then it is tax-free in the hands of HUF as far as section 56(2)(10) is concerned.
Okay, thank you very much.
Presuming what you said, the income of the HUF, right? So suppose you gave the example that the income is 9 lakhs. So that 9 lakhs can be given back to the
Yes.
to the members or to anybody, right?
Yes.
It will not be taxed.
Yes.
The person receiving the gift or the transfer,
yes.
right? But suppose the asset is to be transferred back. Can that?
Then you cannot transfer the asset.
No, but then what? How to, like, suppose it's all cash now? It's an FD. How will you take out that money?
FD, you cannot take out the money of the FD, but HUF can spend this money on any member. They cannot transfer it back to the HUF. They cannot transfer the entire money back to the member, but they can spend this money on the education, maintenance or anything of the member directly. तो आशीष जी, मतलब ऐसे समझिए, मैंने 10 लाख रुपए HUF में डाल दिए, HUF ने उस 10 लाख रुपए से FD करा दी, उस FD से 70,000 रुपए साल का इंटरेस्ट आया, तो 2 ऑप्शन है, या तो वो 70,000 उस HUF में ही रह जाएंगे, the moment it will remain in the part of HUF, then it becomes 10,70,000 as the asset of the HUF. अगले साल फिर इन्वेस्ट हुए, फिर मान लीजिए 71,000 इंटरेस्ट आया, तो दोबारा 70,000 ऐड होते चले जाएंगे। ये 10 लाख 70,000 या जो इंक्रीज हो गए 12-15 लाख रुपए आप मेंबर को नहीं दे सकते, सिर्फ एंड सिर्फ you can distribute this money at the time of partition of HUF. You can do a partition of HUF and that partition is fully taxable. ठीक है सर? But हमारे यहाँ section 10 subsection clause 2 है which says कि जो current year income अगर आपने की कोई आई, any income what the HUF earned during the year other than the members, then this can be distributed free of cost under 10(2) to any member in any proportion.
If HUF spends some, let's say HUF buys a medical insurance for the member,
allowed, they will be allowed to get ATD. HUF can claim ATD.
Thank you. That's what my question.
HUF can pay for your household expenses. HUF can pay for rent. HUF can pay for maintenance. HUF can pay for education fee, tuition fees. HUF can pay for medical expenditure. For the entire family, HUF can spend any amount of money for anybody. Even for the mother of the Karta also HUF can pay.
Okay.
That's not at all a problem. But HUF cannot transfer money other than the current year income to any member. If it transfers or if it transfer any asset to any member, then it is fully taxable in the hands of the member and it is not allowed as a deduction to the HUF. I hope I have clarified this
I
thing.
have a small question. Let's say HUF fund, as you have given the example, 70,000 rupees. There are 4 members in that HUF, but this HUF gives this all 70,000 to one member. Will it be
Allowed,
tax-free or allowed in the hands of member?
allowed.
Okay, thank you.
Allowed, sir, no problem.
Okay.
Sir, current year income of HUF can be given in any proportion to anybody.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification. Thanks.
But
It is very good. Very
after
good.
the close of the current year, sorry, after the close of current year, so for the financial year 2021, whatever is the income, you cannot distribute it today. That becomes as the corpus of the HUF.
Okay.
You can spend the income. आप उस इनकम को किसी भी तरह से खर्च कर सकते हो, बट किसी मेंबर को नहीं दे
So
सकते.
before 31st of March, it has to be transferred.
Yes. Before 31st, it has to be transferred to member or any member. आपने 70,000 में से 50,000 ट्रांसफर कर दिए, 20,000 बच गए. So 20,000 आपका कॉर्पस पे चले गए.
Okay.
Then you cannot transfer it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Any other question, sir? Any other question, or should we move forward?
Yeah, please. I think, yeah.
Arman ji have a question, I think. Arman ji, do you have any question?
No. Please go ahead.
Okay. Now let me come back to the topic. So I've already explained you as an advocate what are the incomes that you have, what are the compliances that you have to make. You can take the benefit of all the deductions which is available, mainly including the low interest on the housing loan that you can take, and including all the business expenditure that you can take. Either you offer it at 50%, or if it is lower than 50%, you can prepare the account, get the accounts audited. If it is higher than 50%, then you can offer a higher income also. So I may be a senior advocate having 100% as my income or 95% as an income, that is all allowed. So I can offer it at 95% also. That's not a problem. If it exceeds 50 lakh rupees, then compulsory audit has to be done. Now the next part is which form to be filed. So we have an ITR form 127, which ITR to be filed and how we should file it. If the advocate or if the person have only legal income and income from other sources, then they have to file ITR 4, which says that you tell me your possessive, tell me the presumptive rate, 50 or more, whatever it is. Tell me what is the other sources, etc. Pay your tax, discharge it by way of advance tax or TDS or self-assessment tax, and file your return. If you are also having an income from business and profession and salary, then you have to file ITR 3. If you have income from house property, salary, business, which is legal income, then ITR 3 again. If you have capital gain also, then also ITR 3. So normally an individual who is doing a legal practitioner, then he have to file either ITR 3 or ITR 4. If the person is a, let's say, employee of a law firm, do not have an income from the law firm, which is in the nature of business and profession, then it is a normal salary. They have to file ITR 1 or 2. If they also have a capital gain income, then only 2. If they have a business income, then 3. So these are the ITR forms what one has to file. If it is a law firm, which is a partnership firm, then there is an ITR 5 to be filed for the law firm. This is how you can do an ITR filing. Due date of filing of return 31st July. I have already told you for non-audit cases, including the law firms also. 31st July you have to file the return. But if you are under the tax audit, either because your gross receipt exceeds 50% or your profit is less than 50%, in those cases the due date of filing of return is 30th October, and this year this have been extended to the July date have been extended to 31st December, and the other date have been extended to 15th of February. So that you can comply with and you can do these things. TDS is an important part. Many of you ignores that TDS part. So DLSA is making payment to you, and that TDS is, let's say, they have deducted 5 lakh rupees. On 5 lakh, they have deducted 50,000 rupees. So please file your return, and you can claim this TDS back by filing the return, provided your income is not taxable or your income is below the taxable limit. There is a new scheme, a new utility being offered by the government from this year onwards, which says AIS, Annual Information Statement. This annual information statement is also important in all the cases. This annual information statement tells you how much is your saving bank interest, how much is your FD interest, how much is the TDS deducted on various parts, what are the shares in which you have traded, whether you have made the FD during the year or not, whether you have invested in mutual fund or not, whether there is a transfer of a mutual fund or not. During the year, have you paid any amount as an advance tax or a self-assessment tax? Any amount being paid by you as a refund by the government to you, or any other reportable transaction being reported by others. So for example, somebody have bought a property, somebody have sold the property during the year. So all these transactions, whatever information this income tax department have, that entire information is available, or maximum information is available under the AIS scheme. For your information, friends, I can tell you there is a project inside 360-degree profiling. According to that project inside, the income tax department have the data of each and every individual. How much is the data? What are the kind of data they have? They have the entire data of your bank accounts. They have entire data of your demat accounts. They have entire data of even unlisted shares. They have the data how much international flights you have taken, how much domestic flights you have taken. They have the data how much Rolex watches, branded apparels, how much Reliance Fresh, Big Bazaar purchases that you have made. So this data is also available with the department. They also have a data through artificial intelligence. So Ashish ji went to USA. That US ticket is there, but in USA he has spent a lot of money. Even those data is also available with the department through his Facebook profile. Because what we do generally, whenever we move abroad, we put our Facebook on our social media that I went to New York, I went to Chicago, I went to this, there, etc. All these are also being tracked for all the assessees. They have all the data, how many cars you own, how many purchases that you have made for all the luxury cars or otherwise, how much property tax that you have paid to the government, what are your incomes abroad, how many bank accounts abroad you have under the automatic exchange of information. So all secrecy about Swiss bank, etc. have already gone. You already heard about Panama leaks and all. So these entire information is available with the department. Now the question is how much they will use in future. For big assessees, they are using it. For small assessees, they may not be using it today, but through an artificial intelligence, after some years, this information can be used against all the assessees. They have not provided these details in a proper manner in their ITR return. So my suggestion to you is please file your returns on time. Disclose your true income in the ITR returns, claim all the TDS. If the TDS is not valid, then get it corrected. There is an option whereby in the ITR portal you can say that this transaction do not belong to me. So for example, somebody has purchased a property or sold a property, but unfortunately it is reflected in your AIS portal. You have an option to deny this transaction. So if it is like that, please deny it, so that you will not be in a trouble at a later date of time. So that's what is going on in the income tax sphere. So please be updated about the same. Whoever is filing your return, whether you yourself is filing your returns or you're getting it filed from a tax practitioner, whether CA or advocate or anybody else, then please review your AIS in detail before filing it and get it corrected. Get the correct returns particulars filed in the income tax portal. That is the need of the hour. So this is all from my side. Now we can open the floor for question answers. So if you have any questions, we can discuss those questions.
Yeah, I have another question. I'm Chaitanya Kakkar. I have got a notice of 26 QB, which you have just mentioned that in the past years also income tax will have all the information, and this notice has basically given me the difference in the shares which I have purchased it during the year. Because whatever information provided by my share broker, I filed my return based on that. Now I don't have any other information available with me for financial year 2015 16, for which I have got this notice. Now what should I do in this case?
Now, first of all, I just want to know this notice is under which section issued to you. Whether it is issued under 201, it is issued under 142(1), 143(2), or 148.
That I'm not aware right now.
So I cannot tell you what you can do with these notices.
Okay.
So you can talk to me offline, and
Okay.
I need the section in which this notice is being issued. So
Okay.
there are different types of notice which is being issued by the department. So based on under which section they have issued it, we can take up the thing.
Okay.
Mr.
Okay.
Chaitanya, we will give you number of Mr. Avinash, and you can contact him in the professional capacity
Yeah.
to engage for his services.
Yes. Thank you very much.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Professional
No,
engagement or not, that's a separate matter. But at least I can tell you which notice is important and which notice is not that important.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bhairav Das have asked that in case some income falls in his hands after filing of return, what should he do?
Sir, if you come to know that there are certain incomes which you have not shown in your income tax return, you have an option to revise your return up to 31st March. So during that time, if you come to know some income, please revise the return immediately.
Okay.
Otherwise you will be in trouble at a later date of time.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Any of the students who have any question? The law students are with us. किसी को कुछ सवाल पूछना है सर से तो आप प्लीज पूछ सकते हैं.
तो स्टूडेंट्स हैं तो मैं एक क्वेश्चन स्टूडेंट से पूछता हूं जो एक स्टूडेंट की जनरल क्वेरी आती है आशीष जी. So law interns used to receive some money as stipend.
जी.
Now the question is whether that stipend is taxable or not. So many students, because in our CA also there are a lot of students, CA students who receive stipends, and we pay stipend like 20,000 a month or 30,000 a month. So we have a specific exclusion that any amount given as a scholarship or stipend for meeting the cost of education, etc., then this is exempt. So there is no need to pay tax on this income what you earn as an apprenticeship. So that you can always, because apprenticeship, so there is section 1032, I think.
अच्छा, उसमें वो exempt है completely.
Exempt, completely exempt.
Okay. Okay.
All scholarships are also exempt.
Okay.
These two are these.
सर एक जनरल क्वेरी लोगों की रहती है कि मेरी इनकम जो है वो बिलो टैक्सेबल है, तो उस केस में क्या ITR फाइल करनी चाहिए?
Yes. सर लॉ ये कहता है इफ योर इनकम,
जैसे कुछ मैंने ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस देखी हैं.
यस सर प्लीज. आशीष जी प्लीज पहले आप बोलिए.
जी सर. नहीं मैं ये कह रहा था कि मैंने कुछ ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस देखी हैं, वो ऐसा कहती हैं कि भाई हम आपकी जो सैलरी है वो बिलो टैक्सेबल है तो हम TDS ही नहीं काट रहे हैं. ठीक है, तो उसका क्या प्रोविजन है? दूसरा ये कि भाई अगर मेरी ITR मतलब बिलो टैक्सेबल ही बनती है तो क्या मैं इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न भरूं?
सर लॉ क्या कहता है सर? हु इज लायबल टू फाइल रिटर्न ऑफ इनकम इन केस ऑफ एन इंडिविजुअल एंड HUF if your gross total income before claiming any deduction exceeds 2.5 lakhs, then you are under an obligation to file return of income. In case of firms, in case of companies, societies, AOP, BOI, in all cases, whether there is a profit or loss, you have to file your return of income. अब employer के केस में हम पहले बात करते हैं सर कि TDS कब कटता है. 192 says employer is under an obligation to withhold tax if the assessee or the employee have taxable income. अब हमें पता है सर कि 5 लाख रुपए तक मेरी टैक्सेबल इनकम जीरो होती है आफ्टर डिडक्शन. सो मेरे को क्या होता है सर 87A की रिलीफ मिलती है जिसमें अगर मेरी इनकम 5 लाख या 5 लाख से कम है तो मेरी कोई टैक्स नहीं. सो आई टेक अ सिंपल एग्जांपल. एक एम्प्लॉय है, उस एम्प्लॉय की 4 लाख रुपए सैलरी है. एम्प्लॉय की लेट से 5.5 लाख रुपए सैलरी है, 1.5 लाख रुपए की उसने एटीसी ली और उसकी इनकम बनती 4 लाख रुपए। अब एम्प्लॉयर की तरफ से अगर आप देखें तो एम्प्लॉयर उसका टीडीएस नहीं काटेगा क्योंकि उसकी इनकम 5 लाख से कम है आफ्टर टेकिंग एटीसी, तो उसलिए उसको टैक्सेबल लिमिट में नहीं है, उसका कोई टीडीएस नहीं कटेगा। बट दैट पर्सन is liable to file return of income because before claiming ATC, before claiming any deduction, उसकी इनकम 2.5 लाख से ज्यादा है, 2.5 lakh, amount which is not chargeable to tax in India. Then this person has to file its return of income and he has to do all these filings etc. तो उसको करनी है। अब आप ये क्वेश्चन पूछोगे क्या ये बहुत जरूरी है, नहीं किया तो क्या होगा? नहीं किया तो कुछ नहीं होगा सर, सिर्फ 10,000 रुपए की पेनल्टी हम लगेगी इनकम टैक्स में, वो भी अगर वो मांगेंगे तो।
ओके ओके
सर एक सर आई एम विवेक, एक छोटा सा क्वेश्चन था। जैसे अभी टाइम लिमिटेशंस है थोड़ी सी, तो क्या ये एक गुड आइडिया हो सकता है कि अभी रफली कैलकुलेट करके फाइल कर दें और बाद में उसको रिवाइज कर लें? एटलीस्ट हम 10,000 की पेनल्टी से थोड़ा सा
कर सकते हो सर, कर सकते हो, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, लेकिन उनमें सिर्फ एक ही प्रॉब्लम आएगी, अगर आपने अपनी इनकम एनहांस करी रिवाइज रिटर्न में तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। तो मैंने आज रिटर्न अपनी भरी 1 लाख की, बाद में जाके 5 लाख कर दिया, कोई नहीं पूछने वाला। बट अगर मैंने 5 लाख की भर दी और बाद में मैंने रिटर्न रिवाइज करके 3 लाख की करी, तो देन इट विल बी पिक्ड अप फॉर स्क्रूटनी एंड एन एक्सप्लेनेशन विल बी आस्क्ड फ्रॉम यू कि हाउ योर इनकम हैज बीन रिड्यूस्ड फ्रॉम 5 लाख टू 3 लाख, लाइक दैट। तो आप कर सकते हो, लीगली अलाउड है, बट सब्जेक्ट टू वेरिफिकेशन एंड स्क्रूटनी हो जाता है।
थैंक यू सर।
मतलब सभी ऐसा करने लग जाएंगे।
I have a small query,
बट
sir.
कई बार सर टाइम नहीं होता है, तो कई बार थोड़ा सा
कोई बात नहीं
मुश्किल
सर, नहीं है टाइम तो इट इज ऑलवेज बेटर टू फाइल रिटर्न ऑन टाइम।
थैंक यू
I
सर।
have a
थैंक
small query, sir. Usually,
Yes,
what
sir.
happens? The employer or the client deducts the TDS, but he does not deposit the same with the income tax department. What is the remedy available for us to recover that money?
सर आपके पास एक ही रेमेडी है कि आप जो एम्प्लॉयर का सीआईटी टीडीएस होता है, जो का असेसमेंट जुरिसडिक्शन है, आप उसके पास कंप्लेंट फाइल कर दो और वो कंप्लेंट फाइल करने के बाद वो रिकवरी प्रोसीडिंग चालू कर देते हैं। इसके अलावा कोई और रेमेडी नहीं है।
Sir,
यस
sir, my name is Mukesh, and I'm new student of law of Royal College of Law, Ghaziabad. So I have two questions. One is, what is the definition of immediate, actually dependents? What is dependents? Dependents can be my spouse and son, or parents, and can it be grandparents also? Grandfather.
First of all, for spouse and children, there is nothing called dependent or independent. So whether they are dependent or independent, that doesn't matter. Only dependent word is used in the act in relation to the parents and grandparents. So for example, your father is with you, but your father is also earning a huge amount of money. He is also doing business. You are also doing business or profession. Then your father cannot be dependent on you. He is an independent. In those cases, there are certain restrictions for claiming the deductions. However, if your father is a pensioner, but he do not do anything and he is dependent on you, he's staying with you, or maybe may not be staying with you, then it is called as a dependent. So dependent word generally used towards the parents and grandparents only, or in few cases brother and sisters also, but not for the spouse and children.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, suppose I just am the only person who earn in my family, and my grandparents, brother, sister, and mother, father, and all are dependent on me in terms of earning. So can I get? Is there any provision to get the benefits of tax if I spend anything on my all family members?
So there are various provisions, Mukeshji, in which you are allowed certain expenditure on dependents, but routine expenditure there is no provision. So there is a provision which says that if any of your dependent member is suffering from any disability, or they are not in a correct mental state of mind, then any expenditure made on them, there is a deduction which is allowed up to 1.75 lakhs also in some cases, depending on what kind of a disability they have. But they has to be dependent. So there is a provision about the dependent medical expenditure, maintenance expenditure, and other things. But for the routine expenses like your fooding and all, there is no provision.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
In case there is any other query, please ask, or we are going to wind up the session. Okay. Thank you so much, Avinash, for this free-flowing interactive session that enlightened us on various aspects and the importance of tax planning and financial planning. I hope हमारे lawyers ने and students ने इसका फायदा उठाया होगा या कुछ उनके क्वेश्चंस रेज हुए होंगे जिसका वो जवाब ढूंढेंगे एंड इस तरीके के सेशंस हम चाहेंगे आप आगे भी लेते रहें सो दैट वेरियस एस्पेक्ट्स गेट क्लैरिफाइड। मेरे खुद के दो चार एस्पेक्ट्स क्लैरिफाई हो गए आपके सेशन से, so we are very thankful for to you. We understand that this was a closing time for you and very busy schedule that you have, so thank you so much, and thank you for the participants also for being such a patient listener, and despite this being a holiday, you all joined, so thank you for your time. Thank you, Vinashji. Thank you for everybody, and thank you for the back team for arranging this session. Samrat, Jeetu, everybody who's there in the office for coordinating this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you Ashish ji, and thank you DLSA Shadra for organizing this wonderful session and giving the opportunity to Institute of Chartered Accountants to come and take this session. Thank you very much, sir. All because of your efforts, we are able to conduct this session.
And the session will be going live on the YouTube also. So after some time, apart from the live session that went on the YouTube on the DLSA Shadra channel, आप इसको हमारे DLSA के चैनल पे YouTube चैनल पे भी देख सकते हैं in case you are interested. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.